Hey, good evening. Welcome to the Falls Township Board of Supervisors meeting, December 16th, 2014. We'll begin with the salute to the flag, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mrs. Polton?
Mr. Gallagher?
Here.
Mr. Boraski?
Here.
Mr. Harvey?
Here.
Mr. Dents?
Here.
Mr. Rocco?
Here. Okay, thank you. While Mrs. Rukoff is going to get the list of speakers who've signed up, we'll point out that Mrs. Rukoff is here tonight for two reasons. We're doing the budget this evening, and also Mr. Gray had a family issue, and so he was not able to be here. I also want to welcome Boy Scout Troop 168 from First United Methodist Church in Farrells Hills. They're here this evening working on their citizenship in the community merit badges. So, welcome, boys. You probably picked a good one. Okay. We'll begin with public comment.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. Yeah, we
prior
did
to
have
the meeting, the board held an executive session to discuss various matters of potential litigation.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. Begin with public comment. We have a couple residents on the resident and one person on the non-resident sign-in sheet. 5 minute maximum, 5 minute per person, please, and 45-minute maximum total. We'll start with Diane and John Beck.
How you doing? John Beck from Thornridge Drive. I guess first of all, real quick, I'm here probably speaking for a few people about the towing. We've been on a tow list for over 20 years. So I guess my first question is, I've called enough messages for the last 4 days, nobody's got back to me. Is there anything, has it changed with the towing since we got a letter saying that we didn't get it in a timely manner?
No, nothing's changed.
Okay, so it's still that the request was denied because the towers didn't get in a timely manner?
Correct.
All right. We've been on a tow list. We get the same thing every year, the application. It's got a date on it when it's due. So I got a high school education. I got a college education. If I show, can I walk up this and show you guys
we have
what this says? On the top right hand, what's the date on it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to ask you, Mr. Beck, to look at the very, very top.
I
understand it says December 31st, but the very top doesn't say towers. It says annual business license and fire invoices.
Yes.
So for that sheet, it's December 31st.
Yes.
The following sheet, notice to records, in boldface, November 30th, 2014.
Yes, I see
the due date.
So this year, I'm basically here to talk about all the towers. There was 9 towers on the list last year.
I know.
From my understanding, I'm not 100%, only one re-signed back up. So I'm here to explain, I think there was how it was presented was misleading. So that's all I'm here for, to try and resolve it. Mm-hmm. I think you're going to be doing a disjustice for all the township and the police officers, because you have many of the towers on there that are equipped and have been doing it for years, and now you're taking them all off, and you're putting whoever's on that I think is going to hurt everybody, the township, the residents, the roads, and to me, I just think it's unfair how it was done. Mm-hmm. So the date on there, and you did change it how it was. The $500 application fee was always separate from the business license fee of the $75. Now this year they changed it. So that's one thing I just want to put that. And as far as the dates, I was told that somebody said it's always the same date. Is that true?
Yes, it's in the ordinance.
Okay.
November 30th.
The only times it was changed twice in recent history, simply because due to various actions of some of the towers, we had to update our ordinances because we had people finding loopholes in the ordinances and doing things that even you guys complained to us weren't fair. So when we were changing those ordinances, there were times when we literally couldn't have the ordinance done in time to get it to you. And so specifically, and it's in here, it's actually listed in what you have in front of you. It specifically says, I think it was 2012, was like, it was actually
It was
extended
December
because of
15th
that.
when it was due.
Because of that situation of updating the,
So that was just
updating the
3
code.
years ago.
So there were
But I'm
times,
just saying
yeah,
it has changed.
in the past.
It's one time, and it says in the ordinance that it was just that one date.
Right.
The date has changed. That's all I'm trying to say to you.
No, the date's always been November 30th.
But, yeah, there was the, because
show me
of.
whatever you want,
Because of circumstances,
I
yeah,
understand.
there was
We
one
saw
year,
it.
yeah, there was one year where we extended it. Yeah,
Only one time.
yeah.
There was one instance.
If it did it once, it changed. That's all. I mean, it's
It
easy as
didn't
that.
change. It was extended. It was extended 1 year because we didn't have the ordinance ready in time.
Okay,
Right.
but
Yeah,
it was
that's
changed.
it.
That's all
Yes.
I'm saying. So I'm just trying to come up with a resolution. You have good towers that are all here that have served this township the whole time. And we all feel the same way. It was misleading. You guys have changed the way you did it. The first person that sees this, they open the packet, it says December 15th or December 31st. So that's what everybody thought. So I'm here to try and resolve it, to ask you if you can extend it. It's not here for an argument. It's just here to try and say, listen, we're here to help you. The way it was presented was a little misleading. And if we didn't get it on time, we're looking for something to just change it to, give it another week so we all can be put in. So what can I do to try and get that done?
Well, here, I'll let you know the problem that we have. Let's say problem we have, the situation that we have as a township. The change this year was that, and I think this has happened in the past as well, all the mailings were combined to make it simple, so that fire, business license, towers, all combined into one mailing rather than two mailings, all sent out same time, early November, okay? The idea was to simplify by sending out one mailing rather than sending out multiple ones, okay? The ordinance is clear that we have to have the applications in by November 30th. Now, this year, November 30th was on a Sunday, so handing it in on the 1st of December would have been acceptable as well, but we didn't have anybody do that.
When?
Okay, the 1st of December, okay, which was the following day. It would have kicked to the following day.
I had mine in at lunchtime the 2nd.
The 2nd, but not the 1st. It's, I mean, you understand the ordinance.
One day,
But
but you-
the ordinance is very clear. The ordinance, I mean, you guys are bound by law, but we're bound by laws. We have to follow the laws as well. And let me run through what the problem is if we do what you're asking, all right? And in some cases where there is actually a remedy that we have already kicked in. Because there was a tower that did comply, that got the same mailing you guys got, the same exact one,
That-
read it, saw November 30th, had his application in, done, complete. He complied with the law. He complied with the ordinance. If we now say, well, let's extend it to everybody else, we're violating his rights because he has complied. So we're bending the ordinance and changing the ordinance to help you guys out, but that hurts him. And then we get sued by him and we lose. Simply because he's going to say their ordinance is November 30th. I had my stuff in November 30th. They didn't. They changed the deadline to hurt me, Your Honor. And the judge says, you're right, and we lose.
You can't see how this is misleading?
I understand and I sympathize with, the business owners that got this, saw the first page, didn't look at the second page, didn't see the date, that was in bold-faced. It was obviously not something that was intentional by anybody here. It wasn't even our decision as a board. It was the administration's decision. It was, the women that were working in the finance department that said, hey, let's send it out this way. Let's combine it. This is something that we actually had asked for in the past, them to combine mailings just to make it easier, cheaper for us as a township, easier for them to do one mailing instead of two.
You can't see
so-
the flaw in that? If 8 out of the 9 people missed it?
Mr. Beck, I mean, I can't tell you what I would have done, as a business owner, getting it in. And for you guys, knowing, we always get our towers ordinance by certain date. They must have changed the date.
I
Maybe
keep all my
checking that
documents.
and looking through it and seeing it. Oh, wait, it says November 30th. And somebody did. That's the thing. Somebody did.
December 31st is the red letter, though.
Somebody did say, and it says it on the second page. bold-faced towers, notice to wreckers, actually, not towers, it's notice to wreckers. Now, nobody complied, nobody put anything in for the heavy-duty tow. And because nobody put in for the heavy-duty tow, that is something that we are going back out to advertise with.
That don't help me because I don't do the heavy duty. So
Well,
I'm not here to talk about that.
well, that's something that we can, you know, I mean, that's what we can
So
do
you're-
at
this
this
is
point.
done. Nothing's getting done. There's
The decision we have is to violate our own ordinance, which would help you guys, but actually probably wouldn't help you guys. I don't even know how the remedy would be. Mr. Clark, if we were to extend it and allow them to bid or put in their information and we were sued by the tower that has complied, wouldn't he end up being the only tower anyway?
The likelihood is that if the one tower who got it in before the deadline sued, the likelihood that a court would order that he be the only one on the tow list for 2015.
Yeah, yes, he will. In fact, he has an attorney here this evening to make sure that we comply.
Mr.
Harvey, just to point out too, that in addition to the packet, the notice to towers was advertised, as it is every year.
Yeah.
And the advertisement indicated that the applications had to be in on or before November 30th, 2014. And
But
so
once you
there's no-
send it out,
and
you're
so there's-
putting it out
And so
there.
there's no confusion about, the law is that when a deadline falls on a Saturday or Sunday, it is automatically extended to that following Monday. So that's not a decision that we made to extend it for some people to December 1st. Since mail is not delivered to the Township building on Saturday or Sunday, it automatically goes to December 1st.
Mr. Clark, when's the fee due for the towers?
At that time.
It's due at that time?
It's due at the time they submit their application.
I mean, if other board members want to jump in.
No, John, I've known you a while, and like Mr. Harvey said, this isn't something that we participated in or even knew about. I do personally feel like it could have been a little confusing for sure. Also, I do feel that at some point it kind of has to be, the onus is on the business owner. So,
If it
although
was
in
always
read-
the same, I would agree with that. But
What's that?
I said if it was always the same, I would agree with that. But you changed the dates before, and it says December 15th, and that was only 3 years ago. That's why I don't think that's fair at all.
And Mr. Rocco, just so we're clear too, the language says, for the license calendar year 2012 only,
Right.
all materials and applications required under this chapter shall be submitted to the township manager on or before December 15th, 2011. So it said quite clearly in the ordinance, to 1 year we did extend it, to add for heavy towers, it did say for 2012 only.
Yeah, in reading this invoice, it looks like the fee itself isn't due to the end of the year.
Exactly.
Right, but that's not what occurred. It's not that we got applications on the 30th and then the fee afterwards. We didn't, with the exception of 2, we didn't get any applications until after, application and fees until after the deadline.
I mean, what we can promise, as I said, we're not in a position where we can just say, yeah, you know what, let's just do this over again. Let's give these guys another couple of weeks. We by law, we cannot do that. We could do it, we're going to get sued, we're going to lose. And you guys aren't any, it doesn't help you at all because you're not going to be put on the tow list by anybody. What we can absolutely do, and we've already kind of talked about it, obviously, as you can probably imagine, is making sure that I would like to see us keep mailing out things combined, just because it makes more sense to send it all out once. But you know, if there's a change needs to be made to the first page of this to make it, you know, make it even clearer somewhere in the second, you know, the November 30th date. I'm sure for the guys that are in the room tonight, I mean, it's probably not going to be something that you're going to be very, very conscious of next year, just because you're going to be wary that this happen again. I understand that, but at this point, really nothing. There's no remedy, unfortunately. Like I said, even if we said, hey, let's let these guys on, let's let them put their paperwork in, we're going to get sued, we're going to lose, you're going to get kicked off anyway.
Yeah. You guys can live with yourself that way then.
Yeah. Okay, second, we had Troop 168 signed up. Is that somebody want to speak, or is you just announcing you're here? They're all going to speak?
No, on behalf of Troop 168 over at the Fairless Hills Methodist Church, we would like to thank the board for allowing us to come out and have the boys work on their citizenship of the Community Merit Badge. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sonny. Appreciate you being here. Dick Trimble?
Gentlemen, I was just wondering, where do we stand with the ordinance about the buses and that I brought up about 6 months ago? Are we still working on that, or we're not going to do anything? We're going to stay with the existing ordinance?
I think we discussed the ordinance that we have it as now is an ordinance that allows the police to determine if a vehicle parked on a road causes an obstruction or a line of sight problem, and the police have the authority, no matter what the vehicle is, bus or car parked a certain way, no matter what it is, the police have that authority to move those vehicles.
Then the police do have an authority to do something about it when it arises
Police
again?
have the authority to make sure there's safe travel of cars on township roads. Absolutely.
All right, thank you for that. I had occasion to go out, I had to look for some property for a person that I'm representing in real estate. I came across 2 locations in Falls Township that I was amazed about. One is a mining operation. I don't know how long it's been in existence. I think that you people need to take a ride around the township and look at some of these sites. The other one is down off of My Lane, where they're storing tractor trailers, and they're renting out land to different tractor trailer operators, all right? This concerns me a great deal, mainly because in the My Lane area off of West Bridge Street, there's only 3 properties over there that predate the Clean Water Act that was passed in the 1980s, protecting wetlands. This was not one of them. The other one is the Paz Guy property, which you guys know about. They're all parking these tractor trailers down there. God knows what's in them. And I think that we need, as a township, to find out what is going on in these areas, all right? So, I mean, I would like to see the board look into it and maybe go around the township once in a while, and you might be surprised at some of the things you see. I know I was surprised, especially the mining operation, because...
Where's the mining operation?
That's at the end of Old Bristol Pike, down by Atlantic Concrete. That was really when it stuck to me, because I don't know when that came about. According to the records that I could find on that particular property, I think that they purchased it 1998. They purchased it in 1998. So I don't know why they're mining it. It's zoned LI, light industrial. All right. I'd like to have you guys look into that one. And I have here for you, I'm going to give this to you. This is a copy of the original land development plans for Fairless Hills. I saw, I sat in a couple of these meetings, saw all these old pictures.
Yeah.
And I thought of this, and I thought maybe, you might have to shrink it down a little bit. But this will give you the idea what was proposed and what actually happened.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Want it?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I have the original. When I die, maybe I'll do that.
Thanks. Thank you. And in case you probably didn't notice, our code enforcement officer, Mr. Bennett, is actually here, and he heard your concerns about those 2 properties, and he's nodding to us. He's going to have his guys take a look at them and find out what's going on.
Well, okay. I spoke to him about it already. If
Okay.
they had told me that the other day, I wouldn't have came to the meeting and brought it up.
Okay.
But it's really something that needs to be looked into. And then the last thing, and then I'll be out of your hair. On this budget, I was looking at the budget. I have some questions on the budget. Do you think you could have your finance department maybe put a key in the budget? A key meaning there's certain terms in here like
CF. I'm sure that means host community funds. But there's other things in here. I have some notations here. I'll email some of my comments to you on the board so you can look. If they had a key in the front of the budget saying what these things mean.
Okay. I kind of thought there was, all right, it's a fair point. I kind of
didn't
thought there
see it.
was, but all right. Okay. Oh, I'm thinking probably of the funds, like each of the funds has a code. Is that, I don't know if that's listed in there
The
somewhere?
names are spelled out at the top of each page.
Okay.
so- But I'll look at it. I
Okay.
can certainly develop.
Well,
something.
it's not on the top of the page. There's various parts of the budget. Instead of having a dollar figure in, they have letters.
Right.
Okay.
We're saying, right. I mean, I've done budgets in the township before. We never had letters in there. Of course, we never had the kind of money you guys have. But
finance
I
director
just
we
have
have.
some
Yeah,
serious
right.
problems with the budget. Pardon me?
Or the finance director we have.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
We had a lot to be desired back when I was on the board. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, those are the residents we had. Are there any of the residents that wish to speak? Mr. Kenny?
Bowling Kenny Falls Township. First, I want to say, if you get a chance in the paper today, what's today? Yeah, today. Look under the section where they have the comments and everything. Mr. Mariani wrote a nice comment about the police that should be sent up to Ferguson. They might see what police really do.
It was yesterday's paper, yesterday's?
Yesterday's paper. I don't know, I get 2, 3 papers at once. And in your prayers tonight, we lost a young lady down in Philadelphia doing her job. The first woman firefighter we lost. So when you're saying your prayers tonight, say a little one for her, will you, please?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you
Good
very
night.
much. Anybody else wish to speak? Resident? Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kevin Wilson. I'm with Rob's Automotive and Collision. I'm the operations manager. My associate, Mr. Beck from John's, pleaded his case. Just want to put on record, Rob's Automotive and Collision submitted their towing license the previous week to December 1st, and you guys received it December 8th. I don't know why it took so long for you to get, but that's not why I'm standing up here. You say you've received one application?
Two.
Okay.
Two. One from the existing, one tower from the existing list, and it was a new tower who saw it in the paper and or somewhere. Saw an advertisement somewhere.
Okay. Well, I would just like you to consider the fact that through the years, I used to work for the Bucks County Police Radio. I would sit this zone, which is Zone 2, Falls Township, Lower Makefield, and there'd be many occasions where I'd have to go to number 2, number 3, number 4 to get a towing company to pick up the phone to get a wrecker out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I would reconsider only having 2 light-duty towers. That could really get you guys in trouble. That's all I have to say. Thank you for
That's
your time.
fine. And it obviously is something, I appreciate it. It's something we have thought about. We've actually met with the one existing tower who was aware of the fact that he was the only one from the existing list to put his information in on time. He has already begun, if he hasn't already bought extra vehicles, he's in the process of buying extra vehicles. He's already told us he's already planning, he's hiring, I forget how many extra drivers he's hiring. He's met with our police, he's met with our solicitor, but he made it very clear to him, that, this might be something you wish for. Be careful what you wish for. Just for the sake of argument, Lieutenant Airy or Pletnick, sorry to insult you, Lieutenant Pletnick. You've got better hair than Lieutenant Airy does. But what happens if we have a tower who can't answer all the calls? What happens at that point? We have accidents in multiple areas of the township. They don't have enough vehicles. Does the county dispatch just call somebody who was on their list, or how's that work?
You're talking about if there's just one tower for the entire township,
Correct.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
We were assured at the meeting that the tower would be able to supply everything that's needed if there is no contact or we can't get a hold of them for whatever reason that may be. There is no county list, so
Okay.
we're flying by the seat of our pants on this one, to be straight up with you.
Okay.
We're expecting the person that did do it properly to be able to respond accordingly.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Mr. Wilson. Sure.
It's great that this gentleman's promising going out, buying out 5 trucks and hiring more people. He's not going to sustain his business off being a duty tower for one municipality. I can tell you that right now. I've been in business. I've seen Rob, my boss, operate. Being, a township tower is a nice. It's a privilege, but you definitely can't base your whole business off one municipality. So.
Yeah, I don't know that he is. He's just saying and he doesn't right now, but he's saying that he's going to be able to cover it. Again, I wish there were a better answer, and I know they're not happy with the answer, and Mr. Beck isn't happy with the answer. The problem is that we have a law that we have to follow. We make laws, we can't change them. We don't have that ability to do that. Well, I'm not sure. But honestly, Mr. Beck, I don't know who you called, and somebody should have called you back. So I apologize for that. Well, I'm not sure who they were with. So I was obviously somebody here at the township. I don't know who it was that got them. I don't know.
Mr. Harvey, that's partially on my office. Obviously, there is a tremendous amount of confusion over this. Obviously, the township secretary and the township manager have been fielding a lot of calls over this, and we've been attempting to work through this with the township manager, and today was really only the first time that we had the opportunity to sit down and talk with him about who would field the calls. And sometimes these matters get referred to our office. Sometimes they get handled by Mr. Gray. We were trying to figure out the best course of action. Until we were able to sit down today with the manager and go over it, we were advising him just to sort of just to kind of hold tight for a moment. After we discussed it today, Mr. Gray was going to be returning those phone calls beginning tomorrow.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. But I do apologize. It shouldn't have happened. Those are all the names on the resident sign-in sheet. Non-resident, Ben, is it Backus? Is that right?
Hi, my name is Ben Backus, represent Falls Auto Body. I just kind of find it hard that nobody thinks it's odd that all the seasoned towers missed the deadline. This was really misleading, and you're worried about one tower being upset. You got a bunch of seasoned towers that are going to have a hardship. I'm sure a lot of them, including myself, have bought equipment and are still paying for equipment. So it's not like somebody just went and bought some equipment, so we can't get them off. But something you ought to think about is that if you're worried about one tower being mad, you're going to have a whole bunch of towers being mad.
Well, and
that's just a,
can you speak into the microphone? There are our AV guys telling us he can't hear you because you have to speak in the microphone. Sorry. Our AV guy is telling us he couldn't hear you because of the microphone.
Okay, there's going to be more than one tower mad.
Well, we understood that. We understood that as soon as we realized that we only had a couple of people come in or send the information in. We knew that it was going to be, a concern, and we started immediately looking at what are our options legally. And you're talking about worried about one tower. It's not that we're worried about one tower. We're worried about obeying the law. We have to obey the law. We don't have an option in terms of just ignoring the law and no, forget about the deadline, don't worry about it. And you put yourself in his position. If you had been the one tower who had put information in, and then everybody else hadn't, and we told you, well, it's congratulations, it's your job, you've got it. And then we said, oh, no, never mind, wait, we're going to change everything so that everybody else gets a fair shot too. I mean, we've had multiple meetings with most of the people in the room who are involved in the records business here in Falls, and we know that we've had situations in the past where there have been arguments fielded through us, If one tower complaining about another one, kick him off the list because he's doing something, it's a tough business. I understand that, and we sympathize with especially the smaller businesses that rely on this as part of their income every year. There's nothing we can do. I mean, there just isn't. I'm not going to lie to you and say, well, we'll take a look and get back to you. No, there's nothing we can do. We've gone through it for the past 2 weeks, taking a look at options, and the option that is the only one for us is the one to follow the law. And the law is in by November 30th. Anybody who is, and complies with everything, meets all the requirements, is on the list. People that aren't.
Has there been any changes to the ordinance at all? I mean, have you always got this ordinance tattooed on somebody or something? I mean, I'm sure something's been changed or extended because if I remember right, I think it was just last year that they extended it because they had a
2 years.
I think they called it maybe a misprint.
2012. It wasn't a misprint.
It was 2011
Yeah,
for the 2012 list.
Right. It was mailed out 2011 for the 2012 year.
How was that
And again,
different?
the issue was that we had to adjust. We had to make changes to the heavy-duty tower list, and because it took us a while to get that in place, the ordinance wasn't ready for everybody to review. So you guys could look at it and say, okay, am I going to meet this for anybody who's on heavy-duty tow? Am I going to meet this? We can't ask you to put in for something if you're not even sure you're going to meet it. So we had to finish that first. So the deadline was extended for only that 1 year, simply because we were making updates to the heavy-duty tower list.
So you only can change the ordinance one time a year on the.
We can change the ordinance, as often as we want, really, but it's always advertised.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it's always it's always advertised.
This is really misleading, actually.
It's always
Mr. Harvey,
publicized.
I think there's a great deal of confusion, and if I could have a moment to clear it up.
Absolutely.
This isn't a matter of the township wanting to change an ordinance, or this isn't a matter of the township wanting to do what it thinks is fair. The township has an ordinance that is on the books. One of the existing towers complied with that ordinance. When he complied with that ordinance and got his application in on time, the courts, the federal courts that control this district have said that they have a vested property right at that moment. If we were to, after the fact, change the ordinance, or we were to go out and let everybody reapply, we would be violating this other tower's vested property right. So it is not a matter of not wanting him to be mad. It is not a matter of not wanting to change the ordinance. It's a matter of, and believe it or not, there's been a lot of litigation over the years regarding towers in municipalities in the Third Circuit. And there are many cases on here that deal with including here, that deal with the fact that once you are on this list, you have a vested property right. The fact that no one else got their application in by the deadline means that only one tower in the township, or one of the existing towers, has a vested property right. And we cannot take that away from him, even if we thought it was fair, or even if we thought that the other 8 were going to be mad. And that's what this is about.
And this isn't a decision that the 5 of us just decided to make either. This is the legal advice that we get from our solicitor, that we pay for legal advice. So when he tells us this is the law, this is what you have to do, we do what he tells us. It's not a decision that the 5 of us said, you know what, the heck with those 9, or let's just keep this guy.
Did anybody read this? Did anybody think it's even just a little misleading? I mean?
If you read past
honestly,
page 2, if you go past page 2, it's really not. If you look at page 1, maybe, but if you look
when you get the newspaper, sometimes you just look at the headlines and you go throw it on the desk.
I don't.
Or
not
you
if
read
it's
it.
not if it's something that my business relies upon.
Yeah.
Well, if you look and you go, okay, I got 30 days to do this. I mean, that's okay. I understand. Thank you.
Okay. All right, those are all the names on the non-resident sign-in sheet. Okay, near the non-resident? All right. Okay, we'll move on with the agenda. Item number 2 is Keystone Nap Data Storage Facility amended final approval. This is 49 Middle Road, tax map parcel 1351-5. You just put it on the easel, sir. Mr. Sullivan, just give us an idea here. This is the data center that is going into the old motor house at the
Yeah, it's called
KIPC.
the motor building at KIPC. The reason they're here for an amended final plan is after we had a meeting where we discussed the process of what they were going to follow.
Sir,
You can show that to the,
could you set up the other easel so that the people in the public can see it, please?
There was some equipment located outside the structure with concrete pads. It wasn't on the original land development plan as approved.
Okay.
It was thought that we should bring them back in for an amended final plan just to show that equipment.
Okay. Make sure you use the microphone, sir, please. Just give
You
us.
can take it off of there if you want.
Yeah, if you need to walk around, you can certainly take it off.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, the land development plan has been updated to reflect the addition to the site of non-occupied areas that require pads and foundations that is strictly for equipment functions, generators, switch rooms, again, non-occupied areas.
Okay.
It's reflected by these 6 rectangles in this area.
Could you show that to the public too, please, on the other one?
Please. The additional concrete pads are required for equipment in this area of the site.
Okay. All right, the data center, again, if you've increasingly you see commercials on TV about different, especially computer companies, and everything's cloud-based and cloud-based software and cloud-based this and cloud-based that. Well, essentially, this is a cloud.
Yes.
This is
The cloud?
This is not the, but you know, they wish it was the. But this is a facility, essentially, it's a warehouse for information. It's going to be filled with servers, computer servers that will accept data from a variety of industries from all over the mid-Atlantic, really.
Correct.
And so this is basically, you know, here in Falls Township, building part of the cloud that will be used by anybody from universities to hospitals to financial institutions to computer software companies, et cetera. So again, it's a pretty simple plan, just making a couple additions, notations on the map. Comments or questions from board members? Mr. Galloway?
Mr. Sullivan, you have no issues with this?
No issues at all, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Boraski?
No.
Mr. Dents?
No, I think it's a great addition down there. It's actually in a spot that's very isolated, so there's really nothing around it. It's just on this side of the Dominion Power Plant. I think it's great that they're coming to Falls Township.
Mr. Rocco?
I have none.
Okay. Any public comment? All right. So this would be. So
No resolution required.
Yeah, so no
Mr. Harvey,
resolution, just
a
amended
affirmative
final
vote
plan.
by the Board of Supervisors.
All right, so we're looking for a motion to approve the amended final plan for the Keystone Nap Data Storage Facility.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Paul, can you let the record show, I'm going to abstain. I found out today my company that I work for was low bid on the job.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, next item on our agenda, extra space storage facility, preliminary and final land approval, 915 Lincoln Highway. This is for those people who are who are longtime residents of the township. This is the old Clover, over off West Trenton and Lincoln Highway. Mr. Hecker is here representing the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Good evening. Tom Hecker on behalf of the applicant. It's not only the old Clover store, but it's also the old Acme store, which is adjacent. As everyone is aware, this property is located at the intersection of Old Route 1, Lincoln Highway, and West Trenton Avenue. Years ago, it was a thriving center occupied by the Clover store and by an Acme. It's probably been about 18 years or more since the Acme vacated the property. They relocated to West Trenton and Pine Grove Road. The property has been vacant for all that period of time without the ability to find a user for that property. The storage facility, Extra Space took over for the prior owner and developer, Devon, and they've done very well there. So that remains very a thriving business. What happened is that my client, Rick McLaughlin, who is the owner of a company called Truck Smart, who is here tonight. Rick, you want to raise your hand? Rick has been a businessman in Falls Township since 1989. He's been involved in the sale and repair of trucks. And once we started this process, I'm happy to tell you that he became the owner of an Isuzu franchise for brand new trucks. So Rick's goal here is to move his Truck Smart operation to this location and to operate a new truck operation, the Isuzu franchise, which he now has acquired. And with all his background in Falls Township since 1989, we think he's going to be a tremendous success at this location. So in order for this to happen, he's entered into an agreement of sale with Extra Space to effectively subdivide this property. This subdivision is a little bit different because it involves having to put a line down the building. So we separate the existing self-storage facility, which is the former Clover, from the former Acme, and that'll be done by a party wall. So there'll be a new line that runs effectively from the rear property line, separating those buildings out onto Old Route 1. And that will be accomplished with the installation of a party wall. The end result is we have 2 lots, one of which will continue to be owned and operated by Extra Space as a storage facility. The second lot, which will be owned by Mr. McLaughlin and his wife, and operate the Truck Smart facility with the new Isuzu truck franchise at this location. There's some improvements being made to the property in order for this to happen. You can see on the plan there's a new access point off of Route 1, which will facilitate access directly onto Mr. McLaughlin's lot. A 1,200 square foot building is being proposed for the front of the self-storage facility. That's for a new office to provide a little bit more visibility. So that is the actual office for that operation. There's some landscaping which is being placed on the storage facility lot to separate the lots more clearly. And there will be rain gardens installed in that area of the property as well, providing some stormwater management where currently none exists. So it's a fairly simple application. Before coming to the board this evening, we have been to the zoning hearing board. With any redevelopment scheme, you always find yourself in a situation where you need some zoning relief. We obtained the zoning relief that was necessary for this project to move forward. We've been in front of the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission has recommended approval to the Board of Supervisors for this subdivision and land development. We have received a proposed resolution for this board's consideration this evening. There's some open items that still have to be resolved between the respective engineers. There will comply items. There are 4 waiver items that are contained in that resolution that deal with the planting of trees within the parking lot, street trees, sidewalks. The ordinance requires the installation of sidewalks and curbing on both sides of the street. Curbing exists along this property frontage, so it's really, the waiver really relates to the opposite side of Old Route 1. There are no sidewalks. This is not a pedestrian area, so we're asking for a waiver. And with the way the lots are configured and the existing improvements, there's really no place to put additional trees. However, there will be landscaping, as I've indicated, a buffer area, which is being installed on lot number 1, which is the the storage facility. So, have any questions? I have both my engineer and the architect here tonight, along with the traffic consultant. I know you can't see this board. This is a rendering of what the new facade will look like. Yes, so John D. Benedetto, our architect, has 11 by 17 copies of that facade.
Thank you. Okay, I think you're right. Yeah, you're right. Yep.
The building where the Acme used to be will also get a new facelift and will be consistent with the Extra Space building. So it's a redevelopment plan, and it's a good use for the property after all these years. Make it a good tax rateable and a better appearance than it has had for quite some time. Happy to answer any questions that you may have about the application.
Okay, comments or questions from board members? Mr. Galloway?
Could you explain again why you want the 2 waivers on trees?
There are actually 4 waivers.
Yeah, 2 of them pertain to the planting of trees.
Yes, 2 of them relate to trees. One is street trees, and one is the planting of 1.5-inch caliper trees, creating parking, effectively separating 6 spaces or more of parking. We're basically taking over an existing parking lot. This is going to be used for sales of vehicles. There's really no place to put those trees. The landscaping on this plan is being added to lot number 1, which is a larger lot along the property line. So there will be landscaping, but we're not going to be putting street trees in where the parking spaces are located. I'm sorry, not going to be putting trees in the parking lot, and we're not proposing to plant any street trees along Route 1 because there are none there.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Boraski?
No, nothing at this time.
Mr. Dents?
No.
Mr. Rocco?
I have none.
Mr. Sullivan, comments or questions from you?
Not at this time. I believe the project is in position for approval.
Okay.
I will say, I think the zoning board was generous. Yeah, but there's a lot of zoning relief here.
And I understand, but again, as I think I pointed out to the zoning hearing board, and I'll say it to you as well, when you're dealing with redevelopment, you find yourself in a situation, these ordinances work perfectly without the need for variance a lot of times if you have vacant property. But when you have existing buildings, and in this case, we're creating a property line between 2 buildings, that's really what facilitated. And I understand your comment, but that was our position.
What are the hours of operation?
For the
Truck Smart business.
Rick, do you want to address that?
9 to 6 Monday through Friday, and 9 to 1 on Saturdays.
9 to 6 Monday through Friday, 8 to 6 Monday through Friday, 9 to 1 on Saturdays?
Yes.
Okay, just for the record, since Mr. Smith wasn't in the microphone.
Okay, thank you.
And if understood, the facility Mr. Smith has up here is staying or is not staying? That's becoming the Isuzu lot, and this is becoming your...
No, we're probably going to leave.
Can you, I'm sorry, why don't you, yeah, if we're going to... I'd let you go with the first question, but we're going to keep going back to you, so you need to be the microphone.
My plan is to lease out the existing property that's here. I don't have a tenant for it as of yet, and I may end up selling it if I can't get a tenant to lease it. So,
Okay.
yeah, we're going to vacate that property. We may leave some of our trucks there for a while, just so that our customers know that we've moved.
Mhm.
And I may leave 1 salesman there for a while.
Okay.
But the ultimate plan is to lease it.
And now this is sales you're doing here, again, this is big trucks, basically, this is work trucks, that kind of thing?
They're up to Class 7 trucks, so anything from like a 26-foot box truck down to like a utility body, smaller utility body electrical, like an electrician would use.
Okay, okay. And where do you do most of your sales? What kind of, how broad an area do you cover?
We've sold 48 of the 50 states and 9 countries. So yeah, the internet makes the world small. So, you know, it's kind of funny because we're a little postage stamp, but people travel a distance for trucks that are hard to find. And we buy all over the country as well. In fact, we bought up in Alaska too. So
Okay.
it's a pretty wide footprint actually for a little tiny business.
Yeah, that's impressive, congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other comments or questions for Mr. Smith while he's here, or Mr. Hecker?
No.
None.
No? Okay, Mr. Sullivan, any questions for you? No?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Smith, appreciate it. All right, so board's being asked to consider preliminary and final approval of this. Is there any public comment needed? See no hands. If there's no more comments or questions from board members, this would be resolution 1434, granting the 4 waivers, 2 for street trees and trees in parking lot, one for sidewalks and one for curbs on the opposite side of Old Route 1. Okay. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 14-34?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, and Merry Christmas to all.
Thank you. Merry Christmas to you.
Mr. Hicker.
Okay, item 4 is a public hearing for consideration of application for Emily Towing and Recovery for standard and heavy tow truck record service for the 2015 calendar year. Well,
Mr. Harvey,
Yes.
this is a public hearing pursuant to the Township Records Ordinance for Emily Towing and Recovery. Emily Towing submitted a timely application to be on the standard and heavy-duty tow truck list for the 2015 calendar year. In their application, they listed their lot as 9240A East Tyburn Road. Pursuant to the Township Ordinance, all licensed towers, except those who were on the tow list before October 11, 2005, must control a vehicular impound lot within the township and actively use said lot within the township to secure vehicles towed in the township. Upon review of the application, it was determined that the lot that the applicant plans on using is the same lot identified by East Coast Propane when they submitted their zoning application. East Coast Propane, according to the record in front of the Zoning Hearing Board, submitted an agreement of sale with the owner of the property. The East Coast Propane also submitted a proper letter of intent. East Coast Propane, as you are aware, was denied in front of the Zoning Hearing Board, but they have filed an appeal to the Court of Common Pleas. The property that is in use, the applicant, Emily Towing, has submitted only a handwritten note from the owner of the property saying that they have the right to use it for 30 days and that right is renewable. The application by East Coast Propane is still active, therefore Emily Towing cannot use this lot. We were informed late this afternoon that East Coast Propane was going to allow Emily Towing to use half of the lot. If that were the case, Emily Towing would have to go through, or the owner of the property would have to go through land development, because consistent with our ordinance, whenever a property is going to be divided for multiple uses, the owner of the property must go through land development. There is no way that this land development can be completed by the end of the year, and therefore Emily Towing is unable to comply with Section 206(5)(b)(4) of our ordinance, and consistent with 206(5)(b)(2), the Township Board of Supervisors may, in each case after a public hearing, deny a license to any applicant who is incapable of properly conducting a road service or tow truck business within the township. Being unable to not having a lot within the township makes them incapable of properly conducting a road service or tow truck business within the township. Emily has the opportunity to present before the Board of Supervisors this evening.
Okay.
Gentlemen, my name is Bill Whitish.
Make sure I'm sorry, so you use the microphone, please, sir? Thank you. Mr. Whitish, is that right?
Yes, sir, that's correct. Retired military. My first tow truck that I operated, and my first tow was 1959, so I've been around towing for a long time. Between that time until the past 5 years, I've been moving aircraft around the world for the U.S. Department of Defense and the military. So I'm familiar about moving things and getting things done. I spoke to the township
solicitor
and the board. We've been discussing this issue with the property. I've spoken to the owner of the property, who is Mr. Ruben Anders. He has a conditional sale with the property to George Lamb, who is the one who filed for the propane property. I am applying at 9240A, and there's also a 9240B. That's where the propane installation will be if it gets approved. This thing has been in litigation for, I understand, several years. And the way things go, as we know, it's probably not going to be resolved tomorrow or by next year. So the agreement is right now, Mr. Ruben Anders will give me a yearly lease with renewal on the property. And this will also be carried over to the new owner if he does take it over. And the completion of the approval of the propane operation is approved, which means that he will give us the opportunity and continue with the lease to 9240A Old Tyburn Road. This property is separate titled. 9240A and 9240B are two different titled properties, so it's not being divided. I will be operating out of this property. It was zoned before, used by heavy equipment company for the storage of heavy equipment. And all I'm going to do is store towed vehicles. I submitted the plan of how I'd store them, the sections in the lot. I was told I didn't meet the requirement, but the requirement is 10,000 feet. The enclosed area is approximately 18,000 square feet. The only improvement to the property is I'll probably in the summertime have to run a lawnmower in there and cut down the grass. There's some weeds in there, but the property is ready to operate 1st of January, no problems whatsoever. So I find it difficult that since this is a separate property, and I have the authorization, I will have it by Thursday at the latest, the new lease for a year. And as I said, the agreement is with Mr. Ruben Anders and also the new pending owner, Mr. George Lamb. He has given the authorization through Mr. Anders for us to continue the lease. I've been looking for a property in Falls Township for a little bit over a year. I applied last year. We didn't make it in a timely fashion. I figured this year I would do the best I can to do it. My checks were submitted. Everything else was been completed. As I said, I have 8 trucks, 8 vehicles, and I can't see where this is a problem.
Members of the board.
I think I've specifically stated that this is a separate property.
It is not. 9240A and 9240B do not exist. They are addresses used, but there is no property record in the Bucks County Board of Assessment for 9240A and 9240B. They are listed as 9244 East Tyburn Road and 9232 East Tyburn Road. Those are the properties that are being referred to by the applicant. Both of those properties are the properties that are listed. Those tax map parcels are both listed on East Coast Propane's application. So therefore, both of those properties are encumbered by East Coast Propane's letter of intent, by their agreement of sale, and by their appeal to the Bucks County Court of Common Pleas. Again, under our ordinance, if you are going to divide the property for 2 separate uses, and in this instance, they would have to fence off certain parts of the property. That requires land development, and again, there's no way that land development can be completed by the end of this year.
The property is fenced off, sir.
But it's fenced around the entirety of the property, is that correct? Or is there subdivided areas within it that are fenced?
I had pictures.
Because I mean, if it's the entire property.
There's a chain link fence that runs down the entire property.
But again, if it's the entire property that's being fenced in, excuse me, and that's including what you're calling the A and the B, you know, the idea is the idea is if you're only operating in part of it, it has to be fenced off just that.
This is the chain link fence that runs down, all the way down, all the way to the end of the property.
Okay.
So it separates A from B. So at the present time, the property is still owned by Mr. Anders. The other side is not being used, because initially I was told the property was used by a landscaping company, and that's not true. The other property is vacant.
Okay.
And the whole premise is, I don't think this thing will be settled in a year in court in Doylestown. And I have the option of having the property available. So there's no one on the other side.
Okay.
So you said there's two different addresses.
Yeah, the 92040A and the 92040B, we've checked with as I said, the Bucks County Board of Assessment. They don't recognize those properties. There is a 9244 East Tyburn Road and a 9232 East Tyburn Road. They are both owned by Reuben Anders and it seems a TR and J. Thomas. They're two separate tax map parcels, and those are, but there is no 9240A and 9240B. We think that's just an address that somebody has been using for that property, but they're really listed by the Board of Assessment as 9244 and 9232.
I'm
And
really
those tax
confused.
map
There's two
parcels-
different addresses, but is it divided or not?
It's two separate tax map parcels, but
It
both
is.
of those tax map parcels are part of the East Coast propane application.
But it is divided. This is, I mean, it's quite obvious the chain link fence runs down between the two properties, so you can't walk from one to the other. You have to climb over the fence.
And we're not sure exactly where that fence is, whether it's directly on the property line, whether it cuts across the property line. But the issue is that this is a property that is already an agreement of sale from East Coast Propane, a letter of intent from East Coast Propane, and they're already on appeal. Presumably, and the gentleman can state that it won't be settled within a year, but if it gets settled before then, East Coast Propane has the right to use the property, and it cannot be used for this purpose.
It's right there in the Falls Township.
In the Falls Township, they have property 13-0407-013 and 13-047-014. It's two different properties, and this is coming.
Yeah, it's two tax parcels, yeah.
Two tax parcels.
So,
Yes.
Yes.
so which of those two are the parcels that you're saying that you're going to be on?
Well, it won't be on the one that's propane.
That
of
doesn't
them are
answer.
East Coast Propane.
Yeah, it doesn't answer. They're both controlled by propane. But which?
If that's the case, I still have, I will provide you with.
You have to use the mic, sir.
You have to use sorry, you have to use the microphone because we're recording.
If that's the case, and this is what the confusion is, I will have a lease signed by the present owner and also authorization to continue for the year. If I was told that if he does get the approval on the property, I have the authorization to stay there for the entire period of time, and he will continue to lease it to me. It's already fenced in. There are no improvements that have to be done. The only thing I have to do is put a key in the lock and open the gate and tow a vehicle in. And apparently, there's a lot of objection to me coming into the township from outside of Falls Township.
Well, not an issue
I
of where
don't
you're
know.
from. It's just the issue is that you're claiming an address that the Bucks County Board of Assessments doesn't recognize, and the tax map parcels you're talking about are controlled by a different company, which has the right of sale or agreement of sale on that property. So it,
But it's an agreement of
but you
sale.
don't.
And
Yeah.
I will have a lease signed by the present owner, and it will be signed, continue through to the other owner. Currently, it's available.
So, Mr. Clark, he doesn't meet the ordinance requirements, is that?
That's correct.
Okay.
All right, so what about the issue of having an agreement or having something from East Propane? Because we don't have anything right now from anybody from East Coast Propane, is that correct?
We don't have anything from East Coast Propane.
All right, so, and we don't know in terms of what you named two tax map parcels, but which one is the one you're going to be on? I know you said they're both technically owned by East Coast Propane or agreement of sale for East Coast Propane.
1347-013.
1347-013.
Which address is that?
That's the
That's a fenced-in subdivided lot.
9232 East Tyburn Road.
9232?
9232.
Mr. Clark, was there anything else in the ordinance that they didn't meet?
No, they complied in all other respects other than 2065B4. And that, again, those who were on the tow list prior to October 11, 2005, who did not have an impound yard in the township were grandfathered in. Those afterwards, since October of 2005, have had to have an impound lot within the township that meets the requirements of the lot.
What they have currently. I also have another proposal.
Okay, all right.
Apparently, I'm running up against a brick wall, and since a number of people here have not been able to comply with the time regulation, they'll have lots available, and I could lease it from them. Would that be adequate?
No, they'll always be. They'll always be.
This gentleman said I could use his. Would that do?
Take it there. I'm sorry, but I'm.
Would that do, sir?
I apologize. What was the
He wants to borrow. He wants to borrow one of their lots. Since they're not gonna be-
Towards lots.
I could use his lot. Would that be in compliance since he's already had a lot and now he can't use it?
So don't you need a lot when you apply for the
Yeah, you do.
the records?
And also, under Section 4, no more than one licensed towing operator may use any given storage lot or impound yard to meet the requirements of this section, and no more than one storage lot or impound yard may be located on any given property.
I guess they wouldn't be considered licensed. You have to use the mic, sir.
Sorry.
I'm under the understanding from individuals I interviewed for jobs that there is someone in the Falls Township that has two different companies using the same lot.
Not anymore.
Here we go.
Not
We got rid of that.
Not anymore.
Oh, it's been resolved?
Yeah, that ordinance, the ordinance was changed to, that was what I mentioned earlier, that sometimes there's companies that look for loopholes, and that was one that was told to us by a competitor, and so we made sure we closed that. So that's, that's something we are always having to update this to a lot for
So
that.
I can't use this gentleman's lot?
That's, has to be a lot, that has to be your lot.
Well, if he's going to lease it to me, it won't be his lot.
Let's take a short recess. We have a couple things we got to work out. Some confusion about the addresses and everything. We need to figure. We're going to call our meeting back to order at about 8:22. Mr. Clark, just to let you reiterate the issues we have with this, and again, trying to do our best to follow the law as it is written.
Mr. Harvey, the board, as you know, just briefly recessed just to have me clarify a legal point, which I will restate now. The ordinance that we have that requires a tower to have an impound lot within Falls Township at the time they submit their application, or at a minimum at the time they are beginning to go on the list as of January 1st. If they are unable to demonstrate that they are able to comply, the board, again, consistent with 2065B2, should deny the application. The applicant before us this evening, Emily Towing and Recovery, is unable to demonstrate that they have a impound lot located within Falls Township. At this point in time, they would be unable to demonstrate to the township that they do possess such a lot, so the board needs to make a decision this evening, and based on our ordinance, I would respectfully submit to the board that the only decision you can make consistent with our ordinance is to deny the application of Emily Towing and Recovery.
Thank you. Comments or questions from board members? Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Boraski?
I have nothing.
Mr. Dents? No. Mr. Rocco?
I have none.
Okay. Having heard testimony from Mr. Whitish and also the opinion of our solicitor, the chair will entertain a motion to deny Emily Towing and Recovery a position on the records list for 2015. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Public comment? See no hands.
I thank you for your time, and you'll
I
hear from my
apologize, Mr.
attorney as
Whitish.
well, because they're two separate properties. They're listed on the internet.
Okay.
And I just think that, you know, the situation you're in, I think I met everything. It's a separate property, it's a separate tax parcel, and I'll go on that basis when
Okay.
my attorney contacts you.
All right, thank you. All right, motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right, item 5 is consider authorization for advertisement for changes to the floodplain ordinance. For several years, the township has heard complaints from residents, especially those living in Elderberry and North Park, regarding having to pay flood insurance because they live in an area that FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, has deemed to be a flood zone. The township has worked very, very hard. Originally, you know, Congressman Murphy, when he was in office, organized some people here from FEMA, from Pennsylvania, Army Corps, all here in this room, actually, to talk to residents. That was several years ago. Recently, we have had a couple of our township staff, Mr. Bennett, our code enforcement officer, Mr. Joe Jones, who works with our township engineer's office, deeply involved with FEMA. Looking for a remedy to the problem. We think we have some good news, which is that the updated maps, which were advertised in September and are due to be accepted in March, take a large number of the Falls residents in the flood zone out of it, which means they will no longer have to pay flood insurance. These, by the way, mind you, are properties that have never flooded. A lot of them are, you know, most of them Levittown houses. A lot of the residents have been there for decades, and there have never been a single flood. And yet the flood insurance goes up every year. It makes the properties difficult to sell. Another move that we can make to assist even more residents is to consider changing our floodplain ordinance. And I know Mr. Bennett and Mr. Jones has worked both with Ms. Gallagher from our solicitor's office to take a look at this ordinance, and I'll ask you guys just to give us an idea of what we're doing and the changes and how it's going to help. Please.
Good evening. Yeah, we have worked very hard with FEMA and the solicitors and the engineers and everybody to try and get what we can out of the flood zone, out of the special flood hazard area is what it's correctly called, that we could, that way they won't be required to have flood insurance. So we accomplished a lot, and we're not done. We're going to keep on pushing to try and get this, get more out, or get, you know, make more strides to make it better for the community. The ordinance at hand is just, our ordinance that we already have is a little more restrictive than what they required us to have. The new ordinance, there's not a lot of changes to what we already have. There's some language put in there. There's a variance option that they want to put in all instances, so that there's a right of appeal. If I say no to somebody, they have a right to appeal to a variance board. But other than that, it's you know, there's not major changes to what we already have.
Okay, Joe. No? Okay. All right, comments or questions for Mr. Bennett, Mr. Jones, or Ms. Gallagher? Ms. Gallagher, do you want to add something, or no? Okay,
Just a point I want to clarify, that this is only authorization to advertise tonight, so we will be finalizing this ordinance prior to it actually being advertised and circulated to all 5 board members for review.
Okay, and it has to be approved by the end of February?
Has to be in place by the end of February, so we will be, we're looking to advertise it for actual approval at the first meeting in February in case there's a weather event that causes us to move it to the second meeting.
Okay, all right. All right, so comments or questions for Ms. Gallagher, Mr. Bennett, or Mr. Jones? Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Boraski?
No questions.
Mr. Dents?
No.
Mr. Rocco?
None.
No? Yeah, and this is for people that are, I know, because I know I've gotten emails from people, Elderberry and North Park, and this is a big deal for a lot of people in Falls Township, including even the Thorn Ridge and some of Vermilion Hills. Close to, was it 400 properties or something are currently kind of falling in this, and we think a lot of them.
Around 350, give or take some. It's a pretty large amount considering we don't have much more than that properties in the flood zone. There are some, but this will take the majority of them out of the special flood hazard area.
Right. This is getting us also involved in what's called the community rating system, which is a government program that asks municipalities like ours to comply with certain rules regarding construction of properties, public information, things of that nature, and by complying with these, we can rack up points, essentially. And if we rack up a certain number of points, there's various kind of scale of how many points you rack up, then you can then the people that live in that community get discounts on their flood insurance. So even if we have a handful of people that are still in the flood zone, because quite frankly, they're in areas that flood, for example, there's the apartment complex right across from St. Joseph the Worker that floods all the time. That's not going to get out. No matter what we do, that's not getting out. But the discount that property owner pays on that, where they could get a discount based on what we do. And so this is something that we're doing to take part in that community rating system and to not only hopefully get as many people out as we can, but give discounts through FEMA, through complying with their program. For those people that are still in, so that you can get discounts of 10%, 30%, 20%, depending on what we can do here. And as Mr. Bennett said, the ordinance we already have is very, very strong. There are a few issues that we have to sort of improve to get up to the level they want us to get up to, but we already meet most of them. And so that's obviously a very good thing. And so I do appreciate the work you gentlemen have put in, and Ms. Gallagher as well. I know that you've been going to some pretty heavy-duty workshops and been learning a lot about this, and probably more than most people in the state probably know about it, quite frankly. So I appreciate that. So we're looking just to advertise, authorization to advertise the floodplain ordinance. Any public comment? I don't see any hands. Okay, is there a motion then? If there are no comments or questions left?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
I do have one question for both of you. Did you guys get a buy one, get one deal on the new suits? Next time you go shopping, you should take Mr. Sullivan with you.
Yeah, there's no boots. Yeah. Okay. All right, so we're looking at agenda item number 6, which is the budget for 2015. It's Mr. Rukoff's time to shine here. The budget has been advertised, correct?
Yes, it has.
And board members have obviously had a chance to discuss with the administration the advertised budget. We did hear one comment earlier this evening. Mr. Trimble had just a concern he said about the budget and just the way some of the indicators and the way things were listed, so that's obviously a table of contents thing. So we're doing two things with agenda item number 6. Number 1, we're adopting the budget and then also passing a resolution which would establish the millage rate. Again, taxes are staying the same. There was some discussion earlier in the year, some investigation into an EIT. We're not doing an EIT. That is a dead issue. We've stated that before. It doesn't hurt to state again. The highlights of the budget, again, focusing heavily on, much of our budget goes to the police department. Also some various improvements in different areas of the township, especially Park and Rec, and obviously preparing for the new building here in the township. Comments or questions for Mrs. Rukoff? I don't know if Mrs. Rukoff, you wanted to sort of present anything or make any comments?
Wrapped it up very nicely.
Okay. All right. Sorry, you didn't.
That's
If I took
okay.
that away from you. Comments or questions for Mrs. Rukoff regarding the budget? Mr. Galloway?
No questions. Thank you.
Mr. Boraski?
No questions.
Mr. Dents?
No.
Mr. Rocco?
I have none.
Public comment? See one hand. Motion to open public comment, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Mariani?
It's the season, so first let me wish everybody a blessed Christmas.
Thank you.
And peace on earth to men of goodwill. I have a few observations, some of which you've heard before. I have some questions and some suggestions for our 2015 budget. And I hope Ms. Rukoff is going to hold my hand in case I make a mistake. Now, host fees have been, and they continue to be, a major source of funding for our budgets. We heard that before. They're estimated to be somewhere around $12 million this year, and again, all of it is going to go to support our general fund. I never believed, still don't believe, that host fees should not be used as a major funding source for normal operating expenses. That kind of prosperity that we've had here for many years, I think, is going to become our undoing if we don't change that. I'd like to see us take a step to expand our tax base and eventually start becoming self-supporting without depending on host fees. The EIT is a dead issue. I accept that, you know. But I don't think it's going to stay a dead issue in probably not the too distant future. I'd like to see this budget for vacuum leaf service in 2015. We'll give Mr. Dent's a little help in that department. I'd like to see us remove the $17,225 for goose management, because we continue to do the same thing year after year, expecting the same results, and that don't work. So budget for a proven method of goose removal. The Kaiser Family Foundation and the Wall Street Journal report that there's going to be like about a 3% increase in health costs from 2014 to 2015. Heritage, they go a little bit more, they say 4 to 5%. The cost of a family plan is $16,000, $834. The employee contribution to that is 28.7%. I'm looking at our health plan here, as I do every year, and we have an 11% increase this year, from 95 to 106. That works out to be about $35,384 per employee, more than twice what we have in private industry. We've got to start closing that gap. I don't want to take anything away from anybody, but I want to make sure it's there when they need it. From 2012 to now, our costs have gone up $361,000 for health care. If you go to page 5, health care increase 11%. Page 6, increase 14%. Page 9, 11%. That's versus a 3% increase private industry. I don't know what our employee contribution is toward that, if there is any at all, but that reminds me of a Cadillac plan that the Affordable Care Act is going to take care of very shortly, 2018. On page 4, we have overtime at $25,000. Page 5, $24,000 overtime. Page 9, $24,000 overtime. I don't know if it's time for an additional employee or part-time. We got to avoid, that's a lot of money for overtime, I think. On page 24, there's open space grant, that's the $945,000. That was included in revenue. I don't know, why would we include that in revenue?
I'm sorry, say that again.
The open space money, the 945. It's revenue because it's part of the grant. It's actually a $1.2 million grant. We would have to put up 25% of it. So if we put up roughly $300,000, the county gives us 945.
Okay, so then I should see an expenditure.
It should be somewhere in there.
We're matching funds, which I thought would have been $236,000.
It's more like 315, 313, something like that.
I'm not off that much. But I didn't see an expenditure for that, and if I'm not mistaken, we should have one.
Yeah.
Land acquisition.
Yeah, there's one in there.
271.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mrs. Rukoff's answering.
I'm sorry, Mrs.
Yes.
Rukoff.
There is an expenditure.
There is?
I will find it for you.
Okay, all right. I trust you. If you say it's there, I know it's there. Land acquisition for $1,271,000, I don't know what that is for. Did we buy something?
The land
That's the open space.
That's the open space. That's the open space.
That is the open space.
That's the open space.
We didn't use it yet.
No, correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
That's the total amount for open space.
Host community fees, total revenue, I noticed, was down 11.89%. It's a decrease.
Projected.
Yeah, they're all projected.
That's a projected
Well,
management.
if you want to go back and look at the projected, where you were August 31st, it wouldn't be an 11.9, but where you are projected to be, it would be an 11.89% decrease. That's the difference. As you could see it, I remember that one. The reserve fund restricted savings of $6 million, that's taken out of the reserve fund, and we're going to use that for a $17 million building. Okay? When we had the road program, which is completed now, we had about a $6 million in the budget for a road program. Where did that $6 million go? Why did we have to take it out of restricted funding?
The $6 million we're taking out for looking toward work this year, prepping for the new building.
You tell me we're going to start construction.
We are telling the engineers to begin, preparing bid documents and completing all their plans and getting ready for site work. Yes.
So you're asking where the money that we would have used on the road program went?
Yeah.
That's your question.
Normally, it would be about $6 million. That's year after year. And since the road program is completed this year,
this year's
where did
program
that
is
$6 million go? What did we appropriate that for? You don't have to give me an answer right now. I'm just these are just things that pop into my head when I go through this. Finally, their pension costs are really rising.
Yes.
You look at the chart, you said it's really rising. The average employer contributes 4.5% toward the employee pension. What do we contribute to our employee pensions?
Turn to Ms. Rukoff for that.
5%.
5%.
5%? You're in the ball game. Thank you. And finally, what I would like to see us do, and I think other townships ought to do, and I've asked you to do this before, I'd like to see us establish a version of the Federal Grace Commission that Ronald Reagan did in 1982. What you would do is get a panel of business and private volunteers. They'd get together. They would be tasked with analyzing waste and identifying opportunity for savings. I'm not going to take over your job or Ms. Rukoff's job, but it's a nice panel to have because sometimes they'll see things that you're bogged down with, management, they're bogged down with something, and they'll see things that maybe you don't normally see. I'd like to consider that and put some people to work here. Other than that, thank you very much. Again, a blessed Christmas to everybody.
Thank you. You too.
Same to you.
Okay, then were there any other public comment? See no hands. A motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Excuse me.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. One more.
On the budget? Yeah, we're doing only issue by issue at this point, Mrs. Beck. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No. Yeah, we had the public comment at the beginning of the meeting. I mean, obviously, if you want to wait till the end, we can board comment. If one of the board members can, if you want to, that's fine. Okay.
I'd like to make a comment on the budget.
Sure. Yeah.
We budget, you see money in there budgeted for goose management, say, or open space, $1.2 million. That doesn't mean we're actually spending that money. Or I'm just making that clear for the people watching at home. I know you know. There might be a lot of stuff in that budget that when it comes time to, might happen, may never happen.
Right.
And the numbers may be a lot lower. Thank you.
Okay, so if there's no more, any other comments or questions regarding the budget?
No.
Okay, if not, then again, we're looking at two things right now. First would be consider adopting the 2015 budget as presented, and the second would be a resolution, which would be 1435, is that right?
That's correct.
Which establishes the millage rate. So first things first, is there a motion to adopt the 2015 budget as presented?
Yes, so moved.
Seconded.
Okay, Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Bransky?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
And the second item would be approving resolution 14-35, setting the millage rates for 2015. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Bransky?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay. All right, next item on the agenda, item 7, consider resolution to appoint an auditor for the 2014 financial audit. Mrs. Rukoff, let you take this one.
At the meeting of December 4th, 2012, the board moved to appoint the accounting firm of Major and Mastro for the audits of fiscal years 2012 through 2014. At this time, based on satisfactory completion of the 12 and 13 audits, the township's overall satisfaction with the firm's performance, it is recommended that the board confirm by resolution the appointment of Major and Mastro for the 2014 audit of the financial records of the township.
Okay, thank you. Comments or questions for Mrs. Rukoff?
No, we do this every year.
Okay. Yeah, Major Masters worked for us for quite a while. They are a firm that works in a variety of municipalities and school districts of all sort of shapes and colors and sizes in the area. Don't imagine there's any public comment. Okay, is there a motion then to approve the retaining of Major Mastro LLC for the audit at the amount of $22,000?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Bransky?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay, item 8, consider awarding workers' compensation contract for the year 2015. Mrs. Rukoff?
There's a resolution for the audit.
Did we do it by resolution number, or did we just make a motion to approve Major and Mastro?
We made a motion to approve.
That's my bad, I apologize.
Okay.
This is resolution what number?
Oh, I see it. Never mind.
36.
It is there, 36. Okay, I apologize. All right. 1436, Resolution 1436 appoints Major Mastro as the solicitor, or excuse me. Well, maybe I should do that. $22,000. That's a bargain. $22,000. As the auditor for 2014 audit, the amount of $22,000. This is again 1436. My apologies. It is here, and I was looking at the first page. Is there a motion?
So moved.
All right. Motion made. Is there a second? 1436?
Second.
Okay. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Bransky?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
All right. Now we're on to 8. Workers' compensation contract for year 2015. We got a couple of companies, I guess, that put in. And also there's a comparison here with neighboring townships. Mrs. Rukoff, do you want to just summarize this for us, please?
Sure. The township requested and received a quote for workers' compensation insurance from Vaughn Insurance for the year 2015. The quote is for $415,580 from Delaware Valley Workers' Compensation Trust. We have had Divot as our work comp carrier since 2003. The board is asked to consider Delaware Valley Workers' Compensation Trust and State Workmen's Insurance Fund for Falls Township's 2015 workers' compensation insurance coverage in the amount of $415,580.
Okay. Just by comparison, because there's some numbers here, just by comparison, the township paid $413,000 last year, roughly, a little over $413,000. This year, $415,000 coming up. That's less than Middletown Township paid. It's almost $200,000 less than Bristol Township paid for the same basic coverage. So again, a pretty good sign of the kind of work that's done here, working with Divot to do different programs to increase the awareness of our employees and keep them safer, which then of course lowers our insurance rates. Comments or questions for Mrs. Rukoff? No? Okay. Is there a motion then to award the workers' compensation insurance to Divot in the amount of $415,580?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Bransky?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay, next item on agenda number 9 is consider purchase of bulletproof vests for the Falls Township Police Department. And I know Lieutenant Plutnik is here. He can comment a little bit on this.
Good evening, gentlemen. The vests are specifically for the SWAT team. The department itself just received new vests for all the line officers, including myself. And these vests are for the SWAT team. There are 10 vests. They roughly go for about $1,492.50 each for a total of $14,925 for 10. They are way more expensive than the average vest that the line officers wear because they have ceramic plates built into them. They're much more resistant than an average plate. They are due to expire, the ones the guys have now, in early 2015. There is a 5-year shelf life on all ballistic vests, and the 5-year shelf life has expired on the ones, or it's due to expire in about a month and a half.
Okay. All right. Comments or questions for Lieutenant?
Nope.
So are these just for the Falls Township?
Yes, that's correct.
SWAT?
We do have 10 gentlemen on the SWAT team.
Yeah, I know sometimes don't we share some of our supplies?
Well,
get a grant, or-
the SWAT team is combined with Ben Salem and Bristol Township. These just are for our guys,
Okay.
and they're custom fit, just like the normal vest. They're measured and sized for the individual officers.
Okay, yeah, that's it, thank you.
Anything else? Mr. Galloway?
None.
Okay. All right, so looking at an expenditure of $14,925 for 10 bulletproof vests for members of the SWAT team who are Falls Township police officers. Is there a motion to approve the expenditure?
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Poland?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Bransky?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay, item 10 is consider notice of intent to award for the Greenbelt Drainage Improvement Project for Vermilion Hills. I mentioned, I guess it was last meeting, that there was an issue, a drainage issue in Vermilion Hills that we wanted to look at and address to make sure that we weren't creating a problem like the county has created off of Chatham Road. I know Mr. Sullivan looked into this and had a proposal, a plan to try and improve the drainage in the one particular area. We did go out for bid, and I'll let Mr. Sullivan comment on the bids we received and his thoughts on what our next step should be.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. There was a bid opening on December 10th, 2014. We received a total of 5 bids. They ranged from a low of $143,485 to a high of $269,173.50. The budget for this project was somewhere around $35,000. So at this point, it's recommended to do the high cost of these bids that they reject all bids. We'll do something to reduce the scope, a more feasible project. So we ask that you also authorize us to re-advertise the project.
Okay. Comments or questions, Mr. Sullivan? Mr. Galloway? Mr. Boraski? Mr. Dents?
No.
35, is that what you said we
Yes,
budgeted?
that's correct.
Okay.
Any thoughts on why they came in so high over?
The contractors we talked to after the bid opening said that the recharge system that we proposed is something that they don't like to work with. Of course, the manufacturer told us it's a great item and everybody loves it. We took his word on that. Granted, that wasn't the case with the contractors we received bids from. So we're probably going to abandon that approach since nobody wants to. It's difficult to install. Nobody wants to do it. They don't do it very often. So we'll probably go the more conventional, just collection and conveyance system.
Okay, so you're asking us to reject and then a second sort of authorization for you to sort of re-advertise the project?
Yes.
Okay. Right. Comments, any other thoughts or questions? No? Right. Okay, is there a motion then to reject all bids for the Vermilion Hills Open Space Drainage Project?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and is there a motion to reauthorize the engineer to, or to authorize the engineer to re-advertise the project?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and we'll stay with Mr. Sullivan up to the engineer's report. Item number 11.
Again, thank you, Mr. Harvey. Only a couple of highlights this evening. On November 17th, the docks were removed from the Quaker Penn Park boat ramp. The ramp is still open if people would like to use it, but the docks are not available. They'll be reinstalled sometime in the spring, somewhere around April 15th is what we think. 2013 road program is in the punch list phase. A lot of that work has been started. Some of it's been completed. Most of it being lawn restoration will not be able to be done until the spring since there's another time of year for that kind of work. We had given JDM a preliminary punch list. They now have a final punch list, and we're expecting them to actively address those items as they can based on weather conditions at this time. But that's all that I have for my report at this time.
Okay, comments or questions for Mr. Sullivan? Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Boraski?
No.
Mr. Dents?
Have they actually been working on their punch list, or just going to wait till spring?
They
gonna
were
hope it
actively
goes
working
away.
on it about a week ago. They pulled off, and we asked them to return as soon as possible. I don't have a schedule from it as to when they may return.
But you went down the list that I shared with you of the things that I saw,
Yes,
and they're all on the list now?
they were all on the list.
I also noticed that some of Makefield Road is caving in that was redone. I just noticed that yesterday. If you pull out of Makefield Road Village, you can see the new paving there, and it's all cracked in between the two patches.
Okay.
Looks like it's going to create a big sinkhole come winter, or come when it freezes.
Yeah, we can certainly put cold patch in that to, keep it good for the winter time. And they'll come back in the
All right,
spring.
we can have somebody check
address
that out.
as well. Absolutely.
That's all.
I have none.
Okay. And I don't have any either. All right, so is there a motion to approve the November, or accept the November 2014 engineering report, which is dated December 12th, 2014?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, bill list for this evening is the amount of $1,782,813.67. Of that 1.7 million, 1.2 million is payroll and health insurance. There also is $38,000 of volunteer incentives, which is money that is paid to firefighters and rescue squad members who meet a certain number of calls as an incentive to them, as a thank you for the work they do. Again, they're all volunteers, and so this is something we can do, especially right around the holidays, to help them.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
What's the Levittown Fire Company Auxiliary? Is that volunteers as well?
Yes. Yeah, that's the women, I believe, Women's Auxiliary. Yeah. What else? I was going to look at something. There was one bill in here I thought was interesting, and now, of course, I can't find it. Energy, again, paying $23,500 roughly for electricity. There's also almost $37,000 in uniform allowance for police officers, much of that being the police vest that Lieutenant Plotnick just referenced a little while ago. So, again, $1,782,813.67. Comments or questions regarding the bills? Okay. If not, is there a motion to pay the bills in that amount?
Yeah, did we exclude the bill last period for Morrissey? I think we excluded it from the total.
We may have.
You're correct, we might have.
Yeah. So we'll maybe do a separate motion to authorize the payment of that bill, which was listed in last month's bill list. Okay, so let's do this one first, and we'll do a second motion for that. Okay. All right, so a motion on this bill list.
Yeah, motion.
Okay.
Make a motion.
Motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Boraski?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay, there was one bill that was withheld from last bill list for James D. Morrissey because of some question over their completion of the project at that time. Is there a motion to pay that bill from last month? I don't off the top of my head have that amount, but is there a motion to pay that amount?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Boraski?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay, next item, agenda minutes for November 18th, 2014. Comments or questions, corrections on the minutes from anybody?
No.
Excellent minutes as always, Mrs. Pullen.
Okay, if none, is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, executive session we had earlier. Manager comments. We'll go to the pinch hitter tonight, Mrs. Rukoff.
Yes, there are two items. There was a police pension committee meeting held on Wednesday, November 19th, and a recommendation was made to change the pension status for retired officers Shook, Taylor, and Bertone to a disability retirement. There was a lengthy discussion at the meeting on each retired officer's status, And after each discussion, motions were made and approved to recommend the disability retirement to the board for your consideration. At this time, the board is asked to consider these disability pensions.
Okay. For Officers Shook and Taylor, they were injured really right near the end. I think Officer Taylor, or Shook, actually, I think it was the day he retired, I think, one of the two. It was actually the day that he retired. I think he's ruptured Achilles, wasn't it? Or so there's obviously disability, involved in that. They were on the job, and Corporal Bertone, who did a lot of work here, was at a lot of these meetings for a long time. Whenever it came to purchasing cars, he was the officer who, or the member of our department, who really was an expert on purchasing police cars. Also forced into retirement a few years early because of illness that he contracted as a police officer here. And I'm going to ask Mr. Galloway in a minute just if he has any comments, because he's our liaison for this board. But first, Mr. Clark, would we do these three as separate motions or just all at once?
I think since it is a recommendation from the pension committee, you can accept the recommendation for the pension committee for all three.
Okay.
Unless you're not inclined to accept the recommendation for one of the three officers.
Okay. All right. I don't know if, Mr. Galloway, if you have any comments or questions you wanted to...
Just that, as described, there were lengthy discussions for each of the officers where we learned the details of their situations, and after proper debate, we all came to the conclusion that it is appropriate.
Okay. All right. Now, I'll ask Mrs. Rukoff, just what does it mean for the township that these officers go from retirement to disability retirement?
There's no effect for the township at all. It only affects the tax status of the officers themselves.
Okay. All right, so it doesn't increase the amount of money?
No additional cost to the township.
Okay. All right, I just want to make that clear for people. Okay, any other comments or questions regarding this issue?
No.
Okay, if not, is there a motion then to approve the change in pension status for retired officers Shook, Taylor, and Bertone?
Yes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, and the second item is that the Fairless Hills Mall Mylars are ready for signature.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're up to board comment. We'll start with Mr. Rocco, maybe?
Oh, again?
Reverse order? I'll do it. I'll switch it up.
No,
I'm sorry.
it's
I don't
fine.
remember from my last time.
Yeah, that's fine. No, I just want to wish everyone a happy holiday, New Year's, and 2015 will be here, or is here actually. And just real quick on the towers, I think Mr. Dent said it. We don't sit up here and want to not allow people to be on our tow list. The ordinance is the law, so the onus falls on. I believe the onus falls on the business owner. I do also believe that there was a little confusion with the packet that they got, but still, I think it's on them. So, just wanted to set that clear that it wasn't really a decision that I felt like I could make, because I was advised that it's the law. We'd be in violation of our ordinance if we said, oh, we'll take everyone's again. So, that's all I have. Good night.
Okay. Mr. Boraski?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was thinking about today that this is our last meeting of the year, so it was my first year in office, and
went fast.
Just wanted to thank you guys for helping me out, get acclimated, and join the board.
Mm-hmm. 5 more.
5 more.
At least.
And yeah, and a Merry Christmas to everyone too. That's all I have.
All right. Mr. Galloway?
Just a happy and safe holiday for all. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Dents?
Yes, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas to everyone. Another good year behind us. Happy New Year. Look forward to 2015.
Yeah, I want to thank, obviously, looking back over the year, thank everybody here at the Township Building for all the work they put in. Obviously, we sit up here. This is the part of the job that people see us in the most. Although we are, contrary maybe to what Mr. Trimble may think, we do actually go around the township and take a look at different things going on and see different areas of, concern, listen to residents, and we're always out, communicating with them. But the staff that works here at the township. Mrs. Rukoff graces us with her presence once in a while. Mr. Gray, of course, he's a regular. You see him all the time. But there's quite a few other people who work here day in, day out, and they deal with the issues much more deeply than we do. And recently, a gentleman I went to high school with, grew up with, told me he wants to move into Falls Township, wants to open up a small business, and he's tried to open up a small business in a couple of neighboring municipalities. I was talking to him about a week ago because he had already filed his paperwork. I didn't even realize he was doing it. He called me after he'd filed it, and just to let me know that that of all the places he's gone to talk to people about issues of code enforcement and fire, licenses, inspections, and everything else, that this was the easiest place to come to. That he wondered with other places he'd gone. He said, it seems like they don't want people to do business in their community, but here, he said, everybody was real helpful. Everything was real clear. He said this is great, and in fact, the letter he submitted of intent said he wants to, and he's not a Falls resident. He said, but he wants to open this business in Falls and keep it in Falls as long as we'll have him. So, I think that says a lot about the people that work here. Obviously, we think we live in a great community. We ran for these offices because we wanted to make it even better than it was, and we have a lot of pride in where we live. And I think that's something that hopefully is contagious, and people feel proud to be here, like we do. And certainly the volunteers who help us out, whether it is, like we just referenced, members of the auxiliary or fire departments or rescue squads, whether it's Little League coaches or basketball coaches or, soccer coaches, cheerleading, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. I mean, there's a tremendous number of people, church groups, that make this a great community, and it's way more than just the 5 people up here or even just the 100 people that work in this building. So we thank all of them for all the work they do, making us community great. This is the first night of Hanukkah, so very happy Hanukkah to the Jewish residents here in Falls Township, and a Merry Christmas to everyone, and a very happy and safe New Year in 2015. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.